My name is Amanda Strickler, and this is my Module 12, Tort Liability in EDL 850. So what is tort liability? Tort liability is basically a civil wrong for which damages or remedy may be obtained. Individuals are held liable for the consequences of their actions or lack of actions. We have two types of torts that can be intentional or negligence. Intentional is in the form of assault and battery, assault being the attempt to injure someone or scaring someone that you may injure them, while battery is the actual physical harm doing. False imprisonment, you can't hold someone against their will. And then defamation is when you make a false statement that hurts a person's reputation, etc. Negligence comes in the form of three things: duty to protect, breach of duty, and proximate cause. Duty to protect would be establishing a special relationship, and especially in the form of student-teacher, that you owe that student the duty to protect them or advocate for them. Breach of duty would be failure to exercise that standard of reasonable cause, or care, I should say. And then proximate cause would be connection. You can relate the connection between the breach and student injuries if injuries took place. So for my 5 tort cases, my first one starts with a suit that was brought against Millard School District. They're basically a 9th grade student was in PE class. There was 50 students in PE class practicing golf due to inclement weather. The student was struck in the head by a golf club accidentally, which later resulted in his death. The problem with this is that the student was gone for the instruction of safety and how to properly swing a golf club, and he was asking his friend for help. At the time of the accident, teachers were in there, they were supervising, but they were not specifically with the student. And the school had written rules in place of practicing golf inside that were not exactly followed, and a suit was brought forward, and the school district was found negligent for lack of supervision. What reactive measures do you think should have occurred or would have occurred? Not the school had written rules in place and they weren't being followed, and there was an unfortunate event that happened. So I feel like I understand why the school district was found negligent. Proactive measures to prevent the tort. Basically, there was written rules in place. So if you would have followed the written rules, that may have prevented this by not allowing students to be so close when swinging a golf club, especially inside. And then describe professional ethics that would be beneficial. I don't feel like necessarily ethics were in question. It was just a mishap that was unfortunate in a sense of, because the teachers were present, but I would suggest maybe not making a class of 50 inside practicing golf club swings and only being 2 adults in the room to supervise 50 students and 1 being a student teacher. I feel like that's kind of the school's fault for putting them in that situation. But then also it is the teacher's fault for not following the written instructions of how to have golf inside when there's inclement weather. My second tort comes in the form of Munn versus Hotchkiss Schools. There was a 15-year-old girl that was taken on a school trip in a different country, and she was bitten by a tick, which unfortunately left her unable to speak because the tick caused or carried encephalitis. Her parents sued the school for negligence. The jury they awarded the parents millions of dollars in damages for this. The school district appealed, but the courts neither affirmed or reversed the decision. And basically, this was because the duty of that teacher was brought into question. The The courts didn't affirm or reverse because they did feel like the duty was in question, but yet they didn't want to affirm it because they didn't want to discourage school trips because that is a reward and necessary learning tool. The parents basically sued school because they were saying that they were not warned of the dangers and the teacher failed to make her wear protective equipment such as long clothing or bug spray. What reactive measures do you think would have occurred in this tort? I mean, I feel like this is a very unfortunate event. How many ticks actually carry encephalitis, and this poor girl got one. But I do feel like the proactive measures that the teacher definitely should have had permission slip stating and warning parents of dangers, etc., covered. And then going hiking, there's ticks everywhere. I do feel like there should have been bug spray provided, or and then just telling students to wear long sleeves due to the fact of we're in a foreign country, we don't know what kind of things are out there. Describe professional ethics that would be beneficial as just trying to keep everybody safe. I don't think necessarily ethics were in question, but maybe poor judgment on the teacher's part of not offering those safety precautions. My next one is BMH versus the school board of the city of Chesapeake, Virginia. This one I feel like is the most preventable one out of my torts, in a sense that if a 13-year-old girl had a student in her class make sexual threats toward her, she reported it to the teacher. The teacher reported it to another teacher, but unfortunately, a couple days later, that student was sexually assaulted on the school grounds. Parents brought a suit against teachers and school board for failure to protect the girl. Claims against the teachers in their individual capacities for gross negligence were upheld. Nothing else was upheld against the school board or anything. And basically, the negligence against the teacher was upheld because the teacher had a special relationship and it was her duty to protect him. Yes, the teacher did tell someone else, but they did not tell a form of authority, whether that being the principal or superintendent or law enforcement. So for the ethics that were involved, I feel like the teacher had the right start. And maybe that other teacher she told was a mentor just didn't follow through in the proper authorities. Proactive measures just would have been to tell the right authorities of that situation and go from there. My fourth tort, I feel like I was surprised this was even a tort because I feel like this happens a lot. A 8th grade student broke his leg in a football scrimmage. The big deal was that this kid was 110 pounds and the student that broke his leg was 270 pounds. Parents filed suit against the coach's school and insurance company for negligence. The court held that no one held a duty to protect the risk of injury in playing a game where students were different weights, and coaches were not unreasonable in their decision. I agree with the courts because signing up to play football, you're automatically assuming some risk that goes with that. Obviously, we don't know the whole situation on, like, were all the kids 270 pounds and there's a little kid played, or just one kid that big for those footballs. So proactive measures in a sense of, depending on the weights of the other boys, if he was that small, maybe holding him out. But then again, is it really fair to sit a kid on the bench because he's 110 pounds when he signed up to play football? Describe the professional ethics. Again, not knowing the weights of all the other players, if that was just a massive team or just a massive student. And then what reactive measures do you think? I feel like they did the best they could. This was strictly an accident, and you assume that risk when you play football. My last tort came in the form of shop class. This kind of hit home due to the fact that I am a shop teacher, but there was a 14-year-old special education student that was injured by a table saw in woodshop class. While using it, he became distracted from another student, causing his hand to slip, cutting his hand severely. Father filed suit. Trial determined the teacher was not negligent because the teacher was in there and the boy had proper training and his placement in woodshop class was appropriate. What reactive measures do you think? I feel like, unfortunately, shop classes can be pretty dangerous, and just I mean, accidents are accidents. That's the thing about having some torts sometimes, is sometimes things strictly are accidents. Proactive measures to prevent the torts. If he was properly safety trained, he wasn't doing anything wrong. I feel like in those proactive measures, knowing there was no foul play, there was no horseplay, it was just strictly an accident. And then describe professional ethics that would have been beneficial. I feel like the teacher did all those things. He was in the room, he was present. It was just a loss of being attentive for a split second, and unfortunately that can happen in a shop class. So reactive measures, I guess, going back to that, could be maybe the teacher has to be there every time a student uses a table saw, or make sure that there are 2 people at all times just watching for safety issues and things like that. And then these would be my references. Thank you.